Dennis Kucinich, former mayor of Cleveland, former Ohio Congressman, former candidate for President of the United States. This is a Fox.com exclusive. How are you, Dennis?
Pretty good, Juan. It's great to join you.
My pleasure.
Great.
Now, there's lots of politics going on, of course, at the convention, but high on the list would be the fact that the governor, John Kasich, is not here.
Well, I know John Kasich. I served with him in the Congress, and if he would happen to be watching Fox.com, which I hope he is, John, you ought to be here. This is a very important event. You're the governor of the state. People are looking to you to be here and to express your leadership. And, you know, if Kucinich can be here, Kasich can be here.
But, in fact, isn't he sending a signal by not being here? A signal that we've seen displayed on the floor of the convention today, Monday, when you saw a large anti-Trump contingent make their voice and dissent known. And I think Governor Kasich, by not being here, is also raising his hand in dissent to a Trump nomination.
Well, that's true. You're absolutely right. His absence speaks very powerfully. At the same time, he can show up and still dissent. And that way he could basically have it both ways. He can be present and with the power and the majesty of the governorship of the state of Ohio, and for those people who supported him to be seen, because he does have, you know, he had a lot of support in that primary. And at the same time, he could reserve his opinion about the nominee. So I wish that he would reconsider. I mean, just because, you know, I'm a Democrat, but I think that it would be good if John Kasich, who's a fairly reasonable guy, would reconsider and show up. I think it would be good for the convention, and I think it would be good for politics in America. Because really, you know, he's the guy who took a conciliatory approach in the election. And I think there's plenty of room for that right now.
But the thing is, if he showed up, imagine if he had not dropped out. He was the last candidate to drop out versus Trump. If he had not dropped out, I think there are a lot of Trump supporters who would see him as not being faithful to the party. So he made that concession, but he is not willing to lend his voice to support Donald Trump.
Look, I understand the position that Governor Kasich is in. In 2004, I was the last one out of the presidential primary. John Kerry won the nomination. I wasn't particularly comfortable with some of the things that John Kerry stood for, but I was part of the process. And if you're part of the process, unless you at some point drop out and say, I'm not having anything more to do with this party, you're duty bound, really. I mean, you are. You know, you get in, you run as a Democrat or Republican. It's part of your obligation as a candidate. Initially, when you get in, the idea is, if you win, you want everyone to support you. And if one of the other candidates wins, well, it's kind of assumed you close ranks. I can understand why he doesn't want to. I know some of the issues he's concerned about, and I respect that. But at the same time, he could be here and still register here.
All right, well, what would you say to
reservations?
Jeb Bush? Jeb Bush is not here. In fact, he just wrote a piece in the Washington Post articulating his strong opposition to the Trump candidacy, and that was just this past weekend. Ted Cruz is so far in very difficult negotiations about whether he will have the opportunity to speak here, because he, too, is refusing to put his might behind Donald Trump.
It's been an extraordinary turn of events in the last year to see Jeb Bush, who at one point could have been considered the odds-on favorite.
I think he was.
And to see him on the outside looking in. You know, each of these individuals you've talked about, John Kasich, Jeb Bush, Senator Cruz, you know, they have their own politics that they're thinking about. At some point, they're going to need to be heard from. They can't stay out. You cannot be in and out of the game simultaneously when their general election is game on.
Right.
Right now is a good time to kind of express your objections, and you can express your objections going in, even into the ballot box. You know, they can vote for whoever they want. But I think that there's a little bit of a quandary they find themselves in that's not going to be easily resolved, because let's face it, Donald Trump's is going to accept the nomination this week. He is the standard bearer of the party, like it or not, and a lot of people are having trouble coming to grips with that. But then they got to figure out what that means if they're going to stay outside.
Dennis Kucinich, you're former mayor of Cleveland, former congressman from Ohio, and a leader in terms of progressive Democratic Party politics. Who did you endorse in the Democratic race?
I didn't endorse anyone.
Who did you favor?
I guess I can announce it here. I voted for Bernie Sanders.
So at this moment, as you're watching what's going on the Republican side, do you think Donald Trump can win?
I think it's going to be a very close race. Remember, this is not a national race per se. It's a 50-state race. And it's going to be hard fought in a state like Ohio. No one has the automatic advantage. Secretary Clinton has a wellspring of support that she carries into the general election, but still, you know, she's got to make a very powerful appeal to the people who supported Bernie Sanders and to motivate them to vote for her. That's a challenge. Doesn't mean it can't be overcome, but it's a challenge. Donald Trump, I think, I'll tell you, I have this feeling about this election, and that is that the issue isn't going to be law and order. Mm-hmm. It's going to be who can really unite the country. I'll tell you why. Because Americans are hungering for unity right now. There's a lot of fear and insecurity, but we don't want to be divided. The divisiveness polarizes, separates us further, and makes it impossible to resolve anything, and creates more problems on its own. And I think that this is where the Trump candidacy faced the challenge, because his campaign took off on a divisive note. You cannot be president of the United States and take that approach. It's not even possible. I'm telling you, it is not possible, Juan, because inevitably people want a president who's going to represent everyone, not just one group or another. There's not a president of only Republicans or only Democrats or only men or women or blacks or white. Somebody has to represent everyone. And a person who can successfully communicate that, notwithstanding everything that's happened up to this point, I think will be the one that will catch on with
well,
the people.
I must say, you're puzzling me, because from what you just said, I would think that you would say, well, therefore, there's no way Donald Trump can win. But to the contrary, you think Donald Trump can win.
No, listen, once a convention ends, there's a reset button. You know, after the primary elections are over, there's a reset button. There's another reset button coming up. It's a whole new election. And the election's recreated again after Labor Day, when the candidates start the home stretch. This election's up for grabs. This is like, you know, we're in Cleveland, basketball town, with the Cavs winning. This is a jump ball, and it could go either way. Now, you know, Secretary Clinton has a lot going for her, but she also has some difficulties with, you know, certain constituencies. Donald Trump's largely enigmatic. He's unknown, but he has said things which raise questions about is he presidential? And he'll have a chance to answer that, though. This isn't like, you know, we can make any kind of an estimation we want right now. The election's going to change, and the candidates change. Candidates will either step up to the moment and become more than the sum of the parts of their constituents, or they're going to blunder and blow a chance to be president of the United States.
Trump's strategy seems to be, especially after he selected Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana, to expand the Republican Party, which is now based in the South and among Southern white voters, but he wants to expand it into the Midwest, into Ohio, into Michigan, into Wisconsin,
right,
and primarily appeal to white working-class voters, some of whom I think you're in touch with as progressives, right, people who are strongly opposed to trade deals and trade pacts. Yeah. Can Donald Trump expand the Republican Party substantially into what has been blue states, Democratic-controlled states?
And there's some evidence he's already doing that. However, it can't just be with rhetoric. People are looking for real answers here. They want to know, how are you going to create jobs? What are you going to do to help raise the level of wages? How are you going to help people hold on to their homes? What are we going to do about retirement security and Social Security? Are you going to keep us out of wars? I mean, and are we going to be safe? This safety and security question is emerging very powerfully, but it's not going to be the only thing. So Donald Trump has been involved in a kind of an alchemy where he's playing with these different themes, and he saw a really powerful response to some of the things that he's talked about. But he is in a race with somebody who's one of the most formidable politicians of our time. Hillary Clinton has great experience. She knows the issues backwards and forwards. She may have some liabilities going into this election, but you cannot sell her short. So that's why I say this is going to be one of the great elections of our lives.
Well, you endorsed Bernie Sanders, didn't endorse, but you voted for Bernie Sanders in the primaries. Who will Dennis Kucinich vote for in the general election?
Well, you know what? That's something that, because, I may tell you afterwards, because I'm still doing commentary, so I don't know that I want to cross that line. And any time that I was on making an assessment, I always made it very fairly, and I always tried to give due credit. I have my own opinions, though, and I shared them with you because I think, this is after the fact. I don't have any problem discussing after the fact.
But the fact is you're a Democrat.
I am a Democrat. Look, but you know what? I want to see, just like I think it's good for John Kasich to be here to express his concerns. I want to see the Democratic Party become a party which recognizes the folly of interventionism, become a party which recognizes the importance of trade deals that have human rights, workers' rights, environmental quality principles, become a party which really stands for a green America, which stands for reform in agriculture and organic, regenerative agriculture that can help clean the environment as well as make America, keep America in a leadership position in agriculture. Our party can do more, and I'm watching, and we'll see what
you do.
Yeah.
Dennis Kucinich, former mayor of Cleveland, host city for the Republican National Convention. Thanks. That was revealing. I really appreciate it. Dennis Kucinich on FoxNews.com. We appreciate your watching.